So Ally Financial right now is warning of disaster that's in the car market. Now, it's very important for us to pay attention to a company like Ally Financial because they do a lot of auto loans. And as we know that if a consumer right now, if they're going to buy a car, they're not going to pay cash for it. They're going to do it with credit. This is how money moves in the car market. So let's check this out real quick. So Ally Financial warns of intensifying credit challenges and their shares slump. So let's go over here. And after they reported this, their stock price crashed about 17%. You've seen over the last 5 days, they're down about 20% right now. So the consumer is in a bad way right now, and this is what Ally is really screaming right now is that their consumer, which is going to lean more to subprime, is really having a tough go on it. And they're saying that consumers have been cutting back on loans amid high interest rates, with looming economic uncertainty also upping the chances of more loan defaults. And what this means is really that consumers, their savings rates are going down, they're spending more on credit. Things are costing more. And if they want to keep up with this lifestyle that they've been accustomed to over the last 3 4 years when money was rolling in, well, they're going to have to spend more because things cost more money. And in those cases, as their savings dwindles, then what do they have to do? Well, they don't have the cash to do it, so they have to put it on their credit card. And what the fear is right now is that people are starting to max out their credit, and they still want to spend, but they don't have the money to be able to do that, so they can't make these payments to keep their credit cards current, and things have to drop off. And what Ally is worried about is that auto loan delinquencies, these repossessions, are going to continue to climb, and they're going to have to put more money back to cover that. They're seeing that more of this is going to happen in the system. I'm seeing it here at auctions right now too. We're seeing more repos come into the system. The consumer is getting weaker. All their savings is gone, and now they're having to charge more. This is a bad setup for the car market, and obviously, it's a very bad setup for Ally. So check this out right here. Ally Financial craters after auto lenders reveal surging delinquencies, charge-offs, and you can see right here. This is a line of added credit spending over here to the right. In last hurrah, credit card debt unexpectedly soars despite record high APRs as savings rates hit record low. This is just exactly what I was talking about. All these consumers are savings rates, they're getting depleted, and they still want to spend money, so they're tapping into all of this credit. And what does this do? This leads to a sudden collapse in US consumer purchasing power. And this is going to really hurt both the lending space and the retail space as far as auto loans and sales are concerned, because if purchasing powers goes out the window, consumers can't get loans, if they can't spend money, then they're not going to be able to buy cars. So this is very important for us to keep track on, keep tabs on, because as the lenders go, so should the car market, because if people don't have the funds to be able to get the cars, they're not going to be able to buy the cars, putting more stress on a lot of these franchise dealers, these automakers. If franchise dealers can't sell the cars, then they can't take allocations. If they can't take allocations, these auto manufacturers are going to have to shut down production. We're already seeing this. This is just a leading indicator. When we see that the credit gets tighter, when we see that delinquencies, auto loans are going bad, then this is going to funnel through the whole system, because this is how cars move. They move through debt. So now in July and August, delinquencies and net charge-offs, the debts that are unlikely to be recovered, charge-offs, these are already loans that the Ally would be saying, okay, we're not getting this money back. So that's where your charge-offs come from. They rose 20 and 10 basis points respectively in Ally's retail auto business compared to with his expectations. So this is not that they just rose 10 and 20 basis points. They rose that more than what the expectations were. So Ally was already predicting, and we've seen this in the last few quarters, that, okay, these charge-offs were going to be bad. These auto delinquencies were going to be bad, but it's even more than what they expected. And this is a big reason why you're seeing, okay, their stock price really sell off, because they the way that they make money is by people paying money back and they making interest on that money. But if a lot of these loans are going bad, if a lot of these consumers can't pay for these loans, then Ally ends up stomaching a lot of these losses. They're going to have to take a lot of these cars back. They go to the auction. When these cars go to the auction, they're bringing a fraction of what the loans were actually written for. A lot of these loans, they're upside down. We're going through the biggest negative equity crisis that the car market has ever seen. And Ally is going to take the blunt of this, because when the cars go to auction, that average of like $6,500 that the consumer is underwater on their car, well, that's on the retail side. So when it actually hits the wholesale side, it's going to be much worse than that. And here's the thing: people who are getting their cars repossessed, they're not taking care of them. They're not able to make the payments anyway. So guess what? They're not able to get their oil changed. They're not able to fix the dings, the dents, the problems that arise in these cars, maintenance issues, sensors that go bad in these cars. There's so many things that go bad in these cars. And the worse that the cars are, the less money they're going to bring at auctions. When I myself are looking at cars that are repossessed, I'm even going to pay less for a repossessed car than I am for a trade-in, because I know that car probably wasn't taken care of as much as some of these trade-ins. So all these other dealers, they know exactly what I know. It's the same thing. So they're not going to bring as much money. And this is even more of a downside for Ally, when they're having to take more of these delinquencies and turn them into repos, and then try to scrape together whatever money they can get back. Been to auctions where I've seen Ally actually selling cars, these repossessed cars, and the amount of vehicles that Ally's sending, that Wells Fargo's sending, Capital One, these big banks are sending to auction, are continuing to rise every single day. All right, and here's a quote from Ally themselves. It was from the CFO. Our borrower is struggling with high inflation and cost of living, and now more recently, a weakening employment picture. Now, we're not thinking that, okay, unemployment's a big problem right now. It seems like still a lot of companies out there hiring. But it's interesting that that Ally would point this out. So not only are their consumers, which are more subprime leaning, that they're dealing with inflation, with everything just costing more, they're also dealing with okay, their jobs. So this is just painting another picture. Not necessarily, we talk about the car market a lot, but really, as the economy goes, so should the car market. So if employment side is weak, that's less money for people to spend because they're making less money, and then the cost of living is high. That's two massive problems that the car market's going to have to deal with, because we need money flowing, we need credit flowing, and that's how cars get moved. So if the economy is not as good as what we're led to believe right now, which is what Ally is saying, this doesn't bode very well for a lot of these manufacturers that are trying to move product to dealers, and a lot of these dealers that are trying to move product to consumers. And they also warn that they will see some underperformance given the number of struggling borrowers, especially in the 61 plus day delinquency bucket, that he expects reserves to move up. So they're expecting to even have to increase their loan loss provisions from here on out. So they're saying that things are getting worse from here, not better. And they're saying that their delinquency bucket, that's 61 plus days. That's where the problem is. So people who haven't paid their bills for 2 months, they're not going to pay past this point. There's going to be a rare situation where someone's able to get back on track if they've missed 2 months worth of payments, and now they have to try to get that money from that consumer. It's probably not going to happen. Those are the consumers that they're going to have to repossess. Those are going to be the charge-offs that we were talking about earlier. All right, and here's a comment I want to pull up, and it says, clearly the guide was disappointing and begs the question if this is an Ally specific or a canary in the coal mine. So what they're really talking about here is this a Ally problem where, okay, they wrote loans that maybe they shouldn't have written, or is this a car market problem because Ally does a lot of auto lending, or is this an overall economy problem in general. And in my opinion, looking at those charts from earlier that we were looking at with okay, your the savings rates at record lows. We're seeing credit card spending going up, and then we're seeing that a lot of people are tapping all the credit that they have, and then they're even going delinquent on their credit cards now too. Not even just auto loans, but also credit cards. Is this an economy problem or is this an ally problem? And in my opinion, this is an economy problem. We have all of this, this spending that's been happening, and people that got accustomed to door dashing, to doing all of this extra spending that they weren't doing before the pandemic happened, and now we have to keep up with the Jones. We have all of these manufacturers that are raising their MSRPs constantly. We have groceries, we have insurance costs that are going through the roof. Everything costs more, and wages have not been able to keep up. And really, wages can't, because if you go through all these companies and then you increase all of these workers' pay, then you create this massive wage price spiral, and then things would get even more out of control. So there's a big problem with the economy right now, and it seems like we're at a breaking point, and we're seeing it now in the credit numbers. And I don't believe it's just an ally problem. I think it's an economy problem, and I think, unfortunately, the economy probably has to break for all of this to get fixed, because prices at the end of the day just have to come down, and the only way that they come down is for Ally to lose a lot of money, for a lot of these companies to lose a lot of money, and then consumers stop spending, and that's when things like your car prices, they'll then come down, because the manufacturers won't be able to get any more cars to these dealers. We're already at the brink right now where these dealers are turning them down because the consumer is so weak. Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of hurt that's in this market right now for things to correct. We're going through a correction right now where prices are coming down. It's not enough, though. We need prices to come down by 20, 30, 40% before things are fixed and people can actually afford things again. The subprime borrower, what Ally really leans into, those are the consumers that are getting hurt the most. Their wages have not increased like the upper middle class, like the upper class, where we're not seeing too much hurt on that side of the consumer, but we're seeing it big time with these subprime borrowers. That's where all the pain is coming from, and that's really where a lot of the spending is going to come from too. So those consumers, unfortunately, I believe they have to get hurt in this economy before things can really get fixed, because then it's going to trickle into all these businesses where they are spending their money, and that's what we're seeing right now. So for Ally, for all of these auto manufacturers, for a lot of these dealers, I think it's going to continuously get worse. Go of things for being able to actually move product, to get people into loans, is going to be much more difficult. Auto loan delinquencies, in my opinion, are going to continue to rise. We have the situation where over the last 2 years, people paid way too much for their cars. They got into loans that they couldn't afford, and banks, just like Ally, allowed it to happen. Dealers put add-ons. They packed a lot of these payments full of stuff that people didn't need, didn't want. F&I products, nitrogen. Dealer added markups. Everybody was getting a piece of the pie from these consumers. And at the end of the day, these consumers are suffering for it right now. And because these consumers are suffering right now, companies like Ally are also going to suffer. And I believe it's going to get a lot worse through the rest of this year, through the rest of next year, before it gets any better. So just for the car buying side, if you need to buy a car, I would ask you to be patient, because I believe car prices, this is going to affect car prices. This 100% will affect car prices, and car prices will be better 6 months from now than they are today. They'll be better a year from now than they are today, because the situation's getting much, much worse. But please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.